Okay, I'm back having melted 2/3 of my chocolate. I melted 200 grams of chocolate to 120 degrees. Um, it's actually, if you can see, I just went slightly over. I'm 121.5. Again, you don't need to buy that thermometer. You can use your digital thermometer, which is just fine. So I'm going to take the chocolate off of the double boiler, and I'm going to put a different bowl on top of the double boiler. You don't need to do this, but it makes it convenient to have a warming pot that's going to stay warm near me. So I took the bowl off of the double boiler and I put it on top of a dry towel. Again, anytime you warm something on a double boiler, it's going to get condensation on the bottom of the bowl, and that's water, and water and chocolate don't mix. So I have the 1/3 of my chocolate. I am not going to throw it all in there. I'll put in about half. Okay, I have put in about half, and I'm reserving some, and I'm going to stir that into the chocolate. So I brought the chocolate up to 120 degrees, and I melt all of the crystals. 120 degrees is much warmer than you need to melt chocolate, but it's necessary to ensure that you have melted all of the crystals, the good and the bad crystals. So now I'm stirring in the seed chocolate. That chocolate is melting, and the temperature is dropping. So already my temperature is down to 101 degrees. So I'm not going crazy here. I'm not trying to beat it. I don't want to incorporate a lot of air bubbles. It's okay if you do, but it's easier if you don't. Also notice that I'm scraping the sides of my bowl completely. If I don't do that, and I'm actually just going to use a little towel to wipe the edge if I have any chocolate up there. If I don't keep the sides of the bowl clean, then the chocolate around the edge will set up. And it's okay, but you will have chocolate that's set, and will, if it comes off, if you scrape it off after it's set, you'll have lumps in your chocolate. So you can see that most of the chocolate that I've added has melted. It's now down to 95 degrees, and I still have plenty of chocolate that's not melted. I'm probably not going to end up adding this. It's okay if you forgot and you dumped all of this chocolate in there. It's okay. You're going to bring the temperature down to 90 degrees, and then I may have some leftover lumps as well. I'm actually doing this in front of a door. I should probably close it, but I'm doing this, and it's chilly outside. I'm doing this in the morning, and it's chilly, and the chocolate is cooling very fast. I'm down to 93.5. So I do not need any more of this seed. I'm just going to put that aside. That's still great chocolate. You could see that the pistols that I have in there are melting more and more slowly. I just stepped away for a minute to close the door so I don't have a cold breeze blowing on top of me. So I have been stirring this, you know, relatively continuously. It's a small amount of chocolate. The temperature of the chocolate will change quickly. The larger the amount of chocolate, the longer it takes. And I'm also being careful, as I mentioned, to keep the sides of the bowl scraped down. And my temperature has now dropped to 91 degrees. So I'm in pretty good shape. I'm going to have some pistoles of chocolate left in there unmelted, and that's where my larger piece of parchment comes in. I'm actually going to fish them out and leave them on the parchment, because when the temperature drops, those pistoles of chocolate won't melt. I'm going to double check the temperature. This is a little more accurate than the thermometer I'm using, although they actually look like they are pretty close. They're about a half a degree different. So I'm actually in very good shape. If you are using this thermometer, it is really handy to have a paper towel with you. So I'm actually below 90 degrees. Below 90 degrees, 88.5. I was 90 degrees on this thermometer and 88.5 on that one. I'm not going to get a lot more melting here. So at this point, if I have some unmelted pistoles, I'm just going to take them out and put them on that piece of parchment, because otherwise they're going to be just lumps of chocolate in my liquid chocolate, which is going to be inconvenient. And again, you saw that I didn't add all of the 1/3 of my chocolate. So it's more convenient. There's nothing wrong if you add all of that chocolate. It's just going to be more, if your chocolate cools down quickly, then it's going to be more chocolate that you have to pull out. If you're doing this in a warm room or on a warm day, then you're probably going to use all of that chocolate, because it's going to take longer for the chocolate to drop in temperature, because your ambient temperature is warmer. But I am doing this in the morning, and it's cool. Right now it's cool. So just while I'm looking for these to fish out any more lumps of chocolate, to go over the theory, I melted the chocolate to 120 degrees to eliminate all of the crystals, to make sure that I've melted all of the good crystals and the bad crystals. And now I'm using chocolate that's in temper to introduce seed, good crystals, to reseed my chocolate. So the fat crystals multiply through agitation at the proper temperatures. So it's very important to stir so that the good crystals spread throughout the chocolate. Okay, I have most of them removed. My temperature is now 86, which is the bottom of the working temperature. I'm going to bring this chocolate back up to 89 or 90 in order to work with it. The working temperature of dark chocolate is 86 to 90 degrees, so I'm at the low end of that. Just taking out any remaining lumps that I see. Okay, it's getting a little cool, so I did keep the double boiler near me, which is convenient. I can briefly return the chocolate to the double boiler in order to raise the temperature. And you can see it was 86 degrees, And this double boiler is not on the heat. I just kept it warm after melting the chocolate. So my chocolate is already up to 87.5. It takes very, very little to raise the temperature. It's up to 88.5. So at that point, I'm going to remove it from the double boiler. I'll put the double boiler aside again. And now I'm going to check the temper of my chocolate. I'm going to take one of the squares that I cut, and I'm going to dip it into the chocolate, just the corner, and I'm going to fold it over, and I'm going to let that set. This chocolate on the square should begin to set within 2 to 3 minutes. It should be fully set within 5 without streaks. So, excuse me, I'm going to try to hold my chocolate in temperature while I check the temper on my strip. When you're doing this for me, I'd like you to check the temper every minute and put them in a row. We're looking for the chocolate to set up without streaks. So as this chocolate is sitting here at the working temperature, 86.5, I'm going to need to warm that again a little bit. I want to keep it between 86 and 90, but I'm going to check the temper. Each minute. So that one is fresh. This one's been sitting here for a couple of minutes. You can see it's starting to set up. That's a great sign. I just for comparison purposes, this one I just did, it's very wet. The one I did a couple moments ago has started to set, and there's no streaks in it. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for it to start to set within 2 to 3 minutes. That's a sign of having good crystals. If I see streaks in the chocolate, that's a sign of bad crystals, and some things have not been melted out. So it looks like I got pretty lucky with my temper. When you do this for me, you're going to check it several times and then show me that you've tempered it without streaks and that it's set up. You can send me pictures of that. You want to use, now this chocolate is ready to use for whatever you'd like to use it as tempered chocolate. If you go above 91 degrees, your chocolate is out of temper and you will need to start the process again. When you're finished with the chocolate, you're going to pour it out onto parchment. If you leave it in the bowl, it takes a long time to melt. But when you're finished with it, if you pour it out onto parchment, it sets up and it's quite easy to break. So again, that was pretty straightforward. It looks to me like I got a good temper right off the bat. Just as I've been talking to you, this chocolate that I had dipped, you could see it's still very wet, but just at the top, it's already starting to set. And that is a great sign that I have enough good crystals that the chocolate is setting in a timely manner.